Hey, creative souls, writers, word witches, thank you for tuning in. I'm so happy that you're here. So, you have finished a somewhat final-ish first draft of your novel. First of all, that is quite a feat. Good for you. I am so proud of you, and I hope you're proud of yourself. You spent so much time, so many thoughts went into it, so much energy. So now maybe you want a perspective, a different perspective than your own. Maybe you want a few different perspectives. Maybe you want to take it out into the world and give it a spin before you start searching for an agent or a publisher. Your next step then is to find a few beta readers to see how your story lands. So how do you find beta readers and what can you expect from the process? That's what this video is all about. I'm going to give you some ideas about how to find the best readers for your novel because audience matters, right? Before we get to that though, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Johnny. I'm a retired adjunct writing professor. I currently teach fiction writing and screenwriting to adults in custody. I call myself a word witch, and I believe I'm on this earth to heal the world through stories, whether it's the ones that I write and tell or the ones that I help you write and tell. I'm on a mission to grow a community of quiet, sensitive creatives who embrace the power of story to heal. So I hope you'll come along. Thank you for your subscribes, your likes, and your shares. And for those of you who have gotten on my email list to get my free first steps to conjuring and nurturing your enduring writing practice, thank you. It's always nice to see new names and ultimately faces. And the same goes for my Alchemy of Writing membership group. If you want to know more about those, check the description for links. I'm also offering a class on October 1st about how to use the 5 W's and how, these simple single word questions that journalists have sworn by for decades. I want to show you how you can effectively use them in fiction writing as well to create a framework for your stories. Okay, so now on to how to find beta readers for your completed first draft. And I say readers plural because you'll want to get a variety of eyes on it, a variety of viewpoints. So the first step you can take, maybe obviously, is think of people who you might want to read your work and just email them directly. And I recommend creating a form email that you can use for everyone and just switch out the name and send that out one at a time. Obviously, we don't want it to look like we're sending out a mass email to start with. We want our readers to know that, especially our first picks, to know that they are somehow special to us and we've chosen them for a reason. And you might even put that in your email. I chose you to do this because, or I would love for you to do this for me because blah, blah, blah. So craft a well thought out email that includes a synopsis of the novel, but don't give too much away. So if you don't know, a synopsis is a brief description of what the novel is about and what they might expect from it, but we don't want to give away, for instance, even the inciting incident. We don't want to give away the ending because we want to entice them to read. We want them to read it as a reader would. So one thing I added when I looked for my beta readers was I said that if you are a person who needs trigger warnings, then this probably isn't the novel for you to beta read. And I didn't want to give what the trigger warnings were about because I didn't want to give what a bulk of the novel was about. And to be honest, when our book is out in the world, when the novel is out there, we can't follow it around and give trigger warnings to people, right? So I added that. You may want to, you may not. It's all up to you. Once you've exhausted those, if they haven't gotten back to you quickly enough, then the next thing to do is to send a mass email to your email list. And this would be your email list of followers. If you haven't started building a list and you're working on a novel, start building it now. One thing publishers will look for is a following. They want to know that you have enough people who are interested in what you're doing and interested and excited about your upcoming novel that it will make marketing that much easier for them. And to be honest, big house publishers don't do that much marketing for authors these days anyway, but it is something that helps. So start working on getting your followers now, getting your email list built. After that, if you still don't have enough, and I recommend at least 3, but preferably 5. 5 is a good number because with 5, you can start to see a pattern. If the same 5 people point out the same thing, or if 4 people point out the same thing, then you know that is something to pay attention to. If you do a social media blast, you may get strangers who want to read your novel. You get to decide who you send your baby off to because you've spent so much time on it. And honestly, at this point in the game, it's still kind of raw, right? You've just finished this first draft. And so you really want to protect it. Not everyone deserves a go at your precious creation. So if you get people on social media responding to you, go to their profiles, check them out, see the tone of their posts. And if this is not a kind person, I would say don't let them read. So really get a sense of their vibe before you decide whether to send it. And you can either just not respond, or you can do a post that says, I found all my beta readers, thanks to everyone for your interest, and just let it go at that. So here are some things that you want to look for in potential beta readers for your novel. People who fit your intended audience. Ideally, you want to find people who will want to read a novel like yours. Back when I did book coaching, I always told my nonfiction self-help authors that they had to have their audience in mind from the get-go. For fiction, that's different. I think with fiction, we just write the story, do it with integrity and respect and compassion for our protagonist. By the time the novel is done, we will know who our audience is. You also want to find people who are not your intended audience. Now, this might be a more personal choice. You may not want to do this, but for me, I thought it would be helpful to have people who maybe weren't my intended audience read my novel. And it was. It confirmed for me that I was on the right path for the readership I had in mind. So I'll give you an example of this. I had 3 women and 2 men. I do believe my novel is a woman's story, which doesn't mean men can't read it. But my intended audience is women in their 20s to mid 40s. Well, one of the men who read it, who I thought would be a good beta reader, and I suppose he was in some ways, but I had known this person. He's a fellow writer. I had known him from bookish events, readings, that kind of thing. I even went to a couple of his own readings. I bought his books in support of him. So I was excited when he wanted to read my novel because I thought, okay, mutual support here. The things that he pointed out as problems are the things that I know my intended audience is looking for. And so that was a good thing for me to know. And in the end, he wasn't very kind about the way he made his comments. He was a little bit snooty. I just didn't like the vibe. And so doing that was good for me to know. If you don't think you can tolerate a response like that, then I would say don't go after people who are not in your intended audience. But if you do this, it will become very clear if you're on the right track by the way they respond. Because if they're not your audience, they're not going to understand why you've done some of the things you've done. Now, if they point out, problems with the writing itself, and I will say this person praised the writing, he just didn't like the way that I presented my character and the things that she was doing. So good to know, right? You are not my reader. Now, here are some things that you can expect from your beta readers. Not everyone will know how to do the process. Some people don't understand what a beta read means, even when you give them guidelines. Some will want to edit or proofread. If they attempt to do this, they may not finish because they will get burned out and they won't be able to do a turnaround quickly enough for you. So they may start to skim, they'll miss important things, and you will end up with some pretty unhelpful comments. So it goes, it's not the end of the world, which is another good reason why it's good to have at least 5 readers, because if one kind of peters out, you still have 4. Not everyone will like your novel. Some people just won't like it. Some people will hate it. Your book, your story, your character, your writing style. But like I always say, I and my work are alike. We are not for everyone. And we don't want to be. Because if we are attempting to satisfy everyone, we are shortchanging ourselves and our work. If you get a response that only finds fault with your work, try doing what I do. Just chuckle and shrug and move on. It's that important. Just let it go. And embrace the knowledge that you are clarifying your audience. As I mentioned earlier, not everyone will finish. People mean well, but like I've said, some people don't understand what they're biting off. They'll start and then life will get in the way, or the story doesn't resonate with them, so they'll drop the ball. And again, that's why it's a good idea to get several people to read. It's no one's fault, it's just the nature of the beast. Not everyone will be helpful if they do finish. Be prepared to get feedback that doesn't inform your next revision. Oh, leaf blowers outside. I hope you can't hear it. I'm gonna just keep going though. If all a reader could do is manage to throw you a bone or two at the end, of unhelpful feedback, accept whatever bones are served to you and to your work, and leave the others behind. Some people miss the mark completely. You'll know they've missed the mark when others have not. Trust your readers and trust yourself. What to do with the information that you get. Look for recurring comments across all feedback. If 2 or 3 people offer the same feedback about something in your novel or about your writing, then pay attention to those, especially if this feedback comes from people who both love and don't love your book. Take what you can use and throw the rest away. Take whatever comments will make your novel better. And leave comments that don't resonate with you behind. If someone doesn't like your character for her personality, so what? That means that you've crafted her to be a complex human being. I had someone comment who beta read my book that they didn't like Miranda for a reason, and it was the most petty, minuscule thing. And so when you get those, disregard them. Here's what not to do with the information that you get from your beta readers. Don't converse with them after they've done their job. I mean, send a thank you, of course, but beyond that, don't have a conversation about their comments. And I say this because some beta readers may offer to have a conversation after they've sent their comments to you. They may offer to answer questions you might have, but I strongly encourage you not to do this. You don't need to put yourself in a position of defending your work or justifying or explaining anything. You don't owe them anything, and you don't need to give them airtime to defend their comments or to challenge you in some way. Simply thank them for their time and save yours so you can get back to the next important task, which is your revision. Don't take feedback personally. Remember that the people reading your novel are other humans with specific personal tastes and varying degrees of training and expertise. Whether feedback is positive and glowing or negative and caustic, take it all in stride. And I will say none of the feedback I got was caustic, but like I said, the one reader was not part of my audience. Use your own head and your own heart to discern what you need to bring into your next revision. And then lastly, I would say, offer a few perks. Of course, be sure to thank your readers, no matter how skilled or not skilled they were at providing feedback, no matter whether their feedback was helpful, no matter whether they hated it or loved it. Because this is a big ask, asking people to read an entire novel within a certain amount of time, and I would typically say a month is a fair amount of time. Genuinely show your appreciation for the time they've taken from their busy lives, because they are the first few people who will have read your novel in its entirety, and that's a big deal. Here's what I offered my readers: a free signed copy when the novel is published, their names in the acknowledgments of the book, and a free hour of book coaching if they were interested in that. So that's it for how to find beta readers for your novel. I will be doing an upcoming video on how to be a beta reader so that when you find beta readers for your novel, you can send them to that video, let them know what the deal is, and hopefully that will help you get some really good feedback on your novel. So as always, I send you mad writing mojo. Happy writing.